We're live. Uh, Good night. This is the Belize Affairs show number 20 for Friday, 4th of August, 2023. Uh, Tonight, being Friday, will be, as usual, the Constitution and legal or case laws or legal matters. And we have some serious issues going on in the country that we need to focus on and bring to bear some constitutional citations as well as potential case laws and observations in terms of what we perceive to be the problem in the country in terms of a presumed bogus SOE, as well as arbitrary and capricious constitutional breaches by individuals within our system of governance. Uh, my name is Leonard Brackett, and I'll be the main host for tonight. Uh, I'll turn it over to Mr. Roody, who will be giving us our scripture reading and our prayer. And then Mr. Wade will be turning it over to Gregory, who will identify himself. And after that, he'll kick it back to me so I could kick off the program. Thank you very much. Mr. Wade?
Pleasant good night. Good night, gentlemen. To our viewers, both at home and abroad, welcome, like you said, Mr. Chairman, to the 20th edition of Belizean Affairs. You went through what we should expect tonight, and as always, tonight I'll read. It's not possible without the Almighty. So we give Him thanks. So I have a word, from Corinthians, chapter 2, 1-10. Says, and I, when I came to you, brothers, did not come proclaiming to be the testimony of God with lofty speech or wisdom. For I decided to know something among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified.
Amen.
And I was with you in weakness and in fear and much trembling. And my speech and my message were not in plausible words of wisdom, for in demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith might not rest in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God.
Amen.
Yet among the mature we do impart wisdom, although it is not a wisdom of these ages or of the rulers of this age, who are doomed to pass away. But we impart a secret and hidden wisdom of God, which God decreed before the ages for our glory. None of the rulers of the ages understood this, for they would not have sacrificed the Lord of glory. But as is written, what no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagine, what God has prepared for those who love Him. These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit, for the Spirit searches everything in the depths of God. That is my reading from Corinthians 2, 1-10. Now
Amen.
I offer a prayer for us. Divine Heavenly Father, we come to you again, with our mission. As always, our mission is about nation and people, and it's about educating. And I pray that you give us the wisdom, the understanding, and the strength and the courage to continue to do what we do and show us the way. Because Lord God, you have taught us that tomorrow is promised to no one. So please give us the courage, Lord, to continue to educate our people. Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
Good
Back to
night
you
to the
there,
Belizean people at
Gregory.
home. Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad.
Good night,
Tonight
sir.
I join with me as virtual host my cousin Mr. Leonard Brackett and Mr. Roody, hoping tonight that we will bring about some basic knowledge on the Belizean affairs, our 19th edition, and hopefully we will try to educate you on what is taking place in our country. With that said, I would like to turn it over to the chairman, Mr. Leonard Brackett.
Thank you very much, Gregory, um, for being available tonight and participating in the program as usual. And thank you also, Mr. Wade, for being available and participating. And we hope that tonight's program will resonate with our people, and more specifically with our current government and those who are exercising the governance powers of our country on our behalf. The reason why I'm stipulating what I stipulated just now is if the people who control the governance power of our country are not prepared to do what is right on our behalf, then to whom and of whom can we request or require accountability? Tonight's show, I'm dedicating it to the attention and hopefully appropriate response by our Governor General, and specifically as regards to our Deputy Governor General, who apparently, because our Governor General was not probably in a position to be able to assent and lift her hands up and sign a document and be able to review that document before she had signed it and know for a certainty that what she was assenting to was adequate and appropriate, having met the requirements of any such document to be put before her or to be brought to her attention for ascension, because of the fact that she has the power delegated to her to assent or not to assent. Presumably, to not assent would mean that she has difficulty with whatever is it that is put before her for her signature. Whether it is seditious, whether it's unconstitutional, whether it's a violation of the basic principles of protocols and ethics, as well as professionalism, and the preamble of our Constitution, to which our Constitution itself is the guardian of our rights, and those rights that are inalienable and that should not be derogated by the government, or abrogated or tampered with, except or under specific major, and I'm using my words carefully here again because I'm using the term major as a means of differentiating what to some government officials and the people to whom I'm going to be speaking tonight appear to be conflating, pretending that the situation is out of control, that the existing governance powers entrusted to them, in addition to the powers of making additional laws for the same purpose, is not enough, to the point where they have to declare a state of emergency, albeit limited within certain jurisdictions, but for the fact that as a state of emergency, it's a taking of powers and aggregating of additional powers onto themselves to do what they are already empowered to do, while at the same time derogating people's rights. Because when you issue a state of emergency, it is superseding the laws or the regular current day-to-day exercise of the laws, and it is empowering and giving additional superimposed powers to derogate civil rights, basic rights, to derogate just about any of the rights that are listed in the preamble of our Constitution. In other words, basically to turn our Constitution on its head. I'm going to be speaking tonight not only just to the Governor General, of course, since she was, for whatever reason, not available to sign, and therefore I'm also speaking to the Deputy Governor General, who is the person that assented, put her signature to whatever is it that we're going to be talking about tonight, or that I'm intending to talk about, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with me as far as this program is concerned. What I'm saying and will be saying tonight is ultimately accountable. I am ultimately accountable for. So if I'm going to mash anybody's car or toe or whatever, and they feel aggrieved about my having done so, I'm not going to ask you for an excuse ahead of time, or even an excuse or a pardon after the fact, because it was intended to be so. Tonight's show, I intend to be straightforward, direct, and very, very much controversial, to the point where I'm not pleading anymore for governance operators to do the right thing. I'll be telling them where they have fallen short and demanding that they comply with the Constitution and the oath that they all took, which is to govern our country on behalf of the people of the country and to safeguard and look after the interests and well-being of the country and its people. This is no time to be playing no hanky-panky game and no nice guy and just talk lightly or act lightly. This type of contravention of the laws and the issuing of SOEs says that things are not normal. So no one should expect me to act, speak, or do anything, or say anything, or expect anything that is outside of the bounds of the Constitution, which is our supreme law of the land. And for that reason, I want to use that supreme law of the land as my guiding light in what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, and to whom I'm saying it. I also want to address this matter to the attention of the Prime Minister. to whom the executive authority to govern the country is delegated through the Governor General as subordinate to the Governor General. I also want to address my comments to the minister in charge of a particular portfolio. And as a matter of fact, I'll just stipulate the exact portfolio to which I'm referring to. The Minister of State, Mr. Karim Musa. What I'm about to say tonight goes to you too, sir, as well as Mr. Chester Williams, Commissioner of Police, Belize Police Department. Who dares to intimate while being a lawyer, or at least having studied law, and whom appear by virtue of his conduct and his pronouncements appear not to know the law, while he is the maximum lawman, and appear to have left his law knowledge in his classroom, because apparently he doesn't have it in his head by virtue of the articulation of things that came out of his mouth, which first have to come out of his head. He had to have had those thoughts before he expressed them. And the audacity of him making such expressions as to say, if a court in the land rules in favor of an individual, for that individual to get bail from under an illegal and inaccurate and incomplete, I should say, not incomplete, incomplete SOE, which on its face then is classified or should be classified, if taken to the high courts, as being in contravention to the Constitution. Why would he say, speaking now to Mr. Ann about Mr. Chester Williams, or police commissioner, why would he have the audacity or the temerity to publicly pronounce that if the court rules that somebody's freedom must be returned to them, even if it is being returned not outrightly but under a bail, that he would just go ahead then and rearrest the person under the same stipulation that the court had already ruled on, and take the people under the SIU, the SOE. The SOE does not trump the Constitution, nor does the SOE trump the Supreme Court's verdict. So where does he get the veracity to speak in such derogatory and in such disdainful, disrespectful manner as an officer of the court? Because both he's an officer of the court by virtue of being a police officer, as well as being a lawyer. What is wrong with these people in our country? Is power getting to their head to the point that it's contaminating their perspective or their ability to rationalize adequately? Or are they so fearful of what they are now classifying as a reason for putting into effect a state of emergency, that they are so fearful to the point where they are prepared to break the laws that they were sworn to uphold, and intimating that if the court should decide otherwise, that they could care less and they're going to go ahead and do what they want to do anyhow? What the hell is wrong with this gentleman? If he had any such contrived thoughts, and he was smart enough, as he's supposed to be, it would have been bad enough for him to have the task, but to express it and in public at that, and to try to use the authority vested in him to foster or to carry out any such stipulation that he made or any such threat that he made, as if to say he can arbitrarily counteract or contravene the court's ruling or wishes. I know that he's a lawyer, but nowhere being a lawyer authorizes him or grants him the privilege to suborn a court order. As a matter of fact, he's an officer of the court. He's responsible for carrying out the orders that the court issues, not to contravene the court's orders and to decide to exercise and execute his own order under his police protocols, procedures, or whatever his department is run by. Those rules and regulations for the police department does not trump the Constitution. And it is the responsibility of the court to make pronouncements, and once those pronouncements are made, it is the responsibility of the court, of the officers of the court, to carry out the court's pronouncement. So, Mr. Chester Williams, sir, get off your high horse. Stop being giddy and act stupid, because you're not. At least to us, people who think we know where you went wrong and what you're doing wrong. A lot of people may not realize that your pronouncements and your behavior is tantamount to contempt of court. But I'll leave that part alone. You intimated in one of your statements before that under the current bogus, incomplete, unconstitutional, highly irregular, and at that, SOE that actually contravenes people's constitutional rights. You stipulated that your officers will be instructed and guided and informed about how to carry out the SOE. Sir, you're giving those officers any directions and guidance, or whatever you want to call it, as to how to carry out an illegal order. Is illegal unto its face. Because if you are giving the police officers as their police commissioner and senior commander, if you are giving them bogus instructions on a bogus SOE, then you are just as guilty as the people that you are trying to use the law and the lawmen and the authority vested in them to go and execute your illegal commands. You're just as guilty as the people who are try to go arrest, or we think you have a need for and maybe a reason for wanting to arrest. You are not the law unto yourself, sir. You're just an officer of the court. At that, you're a peace officer to start with, okay? So how you get from being a peace officer and an officer of the court who's supposed to be carrying out court orders to the point where you will arbitrarily and capriciously decide, well, to hell with the court, you're going to do what you want to do anyhow? That alone should say, as we have been asking in the past of our Prime Minister, to let you go and do your private law work, and hopefully you may be successful at that when you go before any court to plead any case. that you could tell the judge then that regardless of whether you rule, you will still take it upon yourself that your client is either innocent or whatever. Because that's the preposterous mindset that you're coming off as. Your mindset and whatever comes out of you is the law of the land, not the Constitution, and or what is interpreted and or ruled on under judicial review by our courts and our judges. You maybe need to go back to school and pick up what you left in school and try to observe it and then come back. In other words, reel and come again. Not try hide behind the powers of governance and the powers of the government under the color of law to commit illegal acts or to give illegal orders, or to have your police officers who don't know better and may not question you about why is it that you're giving them illegal orders, because they are taking orders from you and you're taking it from Mr. Musa, your boss, who is also a lawyer, by the way, and as your boss being the Minister of Home Affairs. So I'd like to speak to Mr. Musa. Sir, stop playing the fool and take us for fool. Then all of we out there not to pay attention. Some of us are paying attention. Don't take us all for a bunch of, it shouldn't derogate us, because we are already the damn victim. What I want to say to you, Mr. Musa, you have a job, you accepted the portfolio, do the right thing. If you don't want to exercise the powers that the portfolio authorizes on you and do the right thing, just get the hell out of the way. Ask the Prime Minister to give you a different portfolio, or maybe go sit down in at the back bench. But you have the skills to be able to do the right thing and do a good job at that, which is the part that frustrates me or makes me feel bad. Because the portfolio is not above your head, but something is bothering inside your head. You're not operating with good intentions and good faith towards the people that you're being responsible for as the Minister of Police. You cannot go out there, and because the police is refusing to go and arrest the people that are causing problem in our society, that you will go ahead and finagle and conspire, heavy word, which I don't think you think I should be using, or maybe you might think that I'm wrong in using it. But anytime you have more than two people colluding or debating or discussing any wrongdoing so that they could get off easy, I call that a conspiracy, sir. That's my definition of conspiring and a conspiracy. So when you and your commissioner is going to get together and ask your Prime Minister and cabinet to allow you guys to write a statutory instrument or put together a statutory instrument, in the case of this statutory instrument, I think it's 74, 79, whatever it is. I don't remember the number right now. Which is not being done or drafted properly at that, because somebody that did or helped to pull the paperwork together either did not know what the hell they were doing, or just arbitrarily and capriciously was negligent. But I don't think we should take it that far as being negligent. The bottom line is that it wasn't well done or properly put together, which then on its face allowed the SI to fail in its legal structure and thereby not being perfected, not having the rightful claim that you guys are attaching to it. That is that It's a legal SI. It was assented to. And to start with, there was no need for an SI to create a state of emergency, because we do not have a state of emergency in the country in regards to the killings that are happening in the areas where the SI is supposed to be made. Because killings is going on all over the country for different reasons. And we don't have one SI written to get a SOE for the whole country. In fact, we never have one done for Corozal. Where there was a major declaration that we had an issue in Corozal whereby the matter was taken not only from cabinet, but into the assembly and voted on to get an extra $1 million to support a drug warfare problem in Corozal. I remember seeing one SI being written up, SOE being put together, put pressure upon Corozal and stamp out the rights of the people in Corozal just because they have one external threat, which actually that is what the Constitution stipulates when it says that if we have a war or potential threat of war or any major crisis. That is a major crisis, because we are dealing with what you call international drug lords, people who suborn not only cities or districts or towns like Corozal, but who suborn whole countries. And it's not that I'm saying anything that nobody don't know, or I'm just contextualizing it. I'm just putting it in as part of what I'm trying to present here tonight to show the contravention of our laws under false premise and pretext. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So if you want to put one SOE at Belize City, and I put one where the real problems bigger than what we could actually handle in Corozal in place, then that shows that you're doing a sleight of hand. You're not actually operating across the board. You're doing favoritism one way or the other, or you're doing suppression and oppression one way or the other. There was no need, first of all, for the SOE. Okay. The fact that it's faulty and not properly drafted is only one bonus that goes to the defense and the rights of these people who went and grab up and just carried a jail, because we want to put them in jail for 30 days punitively, taking away these people their right for 30 days without any justification, just because you are aggrieved that you don't want to use the regular laws of the country to solve the problem. So therefore you are inconvenienced everybody else in another area or living in our area, because all of them that have to pass through the police checkpoint and have to waste their time to get hustled and haggled and the powers of the police have now that they can actually do things that they wouldn't be able to do under the regular laws, because they are empowered with state of emergency super laws. The bottom line, Mr. Police Minister, you should have demanded of your police commissioner to do his job and follow the laws of the land. You should not have conspired with him and uphold him and be the intermediary to go and make cabinet, empower you to get one statutory instrument put in place to then go and ask for a state of emergency. Because what the Deputy Governor General signed, as far as we can see and as far as what is made available to the public, because as a matter of fact, that matter should have been publicized and gazetted, as well as publicized on the radio waves and the TVs and everything else, so that the public can know if and when and under what circumstance and how they would end up violating that state of emergency, so that they don't get caught up into the net that you guys said you only want to cast for the bad man there. Because once you write that stuff and it's actually done correctly, they're not just the bad man them they talk about. You may have an intention about the bad man there, but the SOE covers the whole area and everybody under that jurisdiction. Why do you think that you as a part of the government have the right to derogate people's right arbitrarily and capriciously in that manner, just because you refuse to do your job? Mr. Prime Minister, I know you don't like black people, as is manifested by your dismissiveness and disdainfulness towards black people. That does not justify your exercising the powers of the country to derogate, denigrate, and use any sleight of hand and complain about them killing themselves. You're disparaging black people right, left, and center. You want minister in your own cabinet, Mr. Osha is trying to get the cabinet to assist him with resolving some issues in his area, and you guys put on a foot down on the neck. Your deputy prime minister tried intervening to ask cabinet, and you as the prime minister, the leader of the cabinet, to help and assist in certain situations. I want to put the foot down for the man. And the other one in the cabinet laugh because the man, as deputy prime minister, at least should have some sway and some way. But he has none of the above. And had to look small and embarrassed that despite his effort to try and make a difference, you know, he got stepped on his neck as well. And there are other instances and issues that I can point out that goes to your personality, personal profile, character, and mismanagement and malmanagement. So, Mr. Prime Minister, if you get to know that this thing was done wrong, are you of the mindset that it ought to be corrected? And even if you don't want to do it, after I tell you that you never had to do it, and when you're supposed to know that you never had to do it, are you going to make sure that your cabinet ministers then, in particular, Mr. Musa, as regards to the portfolio of Home Affairs and Police Minister, go back and revisit that SOE or ask for a rescindment of that SOE, since it doesn't have anything in there that tells the people what is the violative part of it, what constitutes violating that SOE, because that was required initially before the Governor General assented and signed on it. I'm not sure that the Governor General may not the Governor General, the Deputy Governor General may have been cognizant of those requirements or realities. It appears that the Deputy Governor General just went ahead and signed what was put before her as a rubber stamp, because she did not question the inconsistency and incorrectness of the documentation that was put before her before she signed it. That is her responsibility, to check on those matters and to know those things before she puts her signature and assent to something, and thereby empower a bogus process That's why some of the people in always they talk around the place that governor generals are just figureheads. As in this particular case, it lends credence to that to that type of malignment. When in fact, a governor general is not no damn figurehead. A governor general is the person to whom the people who are doing the day-to-day management, the executive management of the country, has to come to the governor general for ascension and for powers so that they can operate and do what they want to do. They don't have those powers unto themselves. Cabinet can't dictate, well, they do this and they do that. Or the House can't decide they do this and they do that. And go ahead and do it without getting the ascension of the governor general and without following the recommendation of the courts. Those are what you call violation of the structural separation of structures doctrine. Because each of these entities, the judiciary have its responsibility, the executive have its responsibility, and the legislative have its responsibility. And so likewise, the media have its responsibility. So the media must be afforded the privilege under the Freedom of Information Act to get the information that they need to keep the public to whom the government is responsible, to keep the public appraised of what's going on with their governance affairs. So cabinet can't be doing a lot of stuff in a secret and don't let that information be available to the media house for the media house could spread it to the rest of the public. Because right now this SOE that is being banted around, very few people in the country realize that it is not properly structured. It fails on its face. It was signed, or at least the piece of paper that was produced to the public to show that they had one SOE that was signed. It was signed not in the way a professional signature is placed on a document. The document must be reviewed and signed off at the bottom as having read and agreed to and assented to. You don't have the signature of the Governor General or the Deputy Governor General in the beginning of the document, and the document is missing pages and missing information that would allow it to be legal. And the people who want to sign it don't know that they sign something that is not complete or that is not legal. I mean, by a judge, even the criminal, Mr. Contreras, at least sign his document at the end. You can tell me that the non-criminal people, the people who are actually supposed to be the good guys, the people who are supposed to be executing our laws, or making our laws, or signing off on our laws, giving the power of ascension and power of legality to the documents, would not review the documents and would not know that the documents are missing bits and pieces that are necessary in order to comply with what the law requires. You can sign off on an SOE and then tell the people where you sign off to and give them that paper to make them go put in whatever they want to put in there or aggregate to it, and that should be all right. That I don't know. I want to go back to the fact that the government, for all intents and purposes, as my cousin had said before last week in our presentation, is doing human trafficking. That is that they use their authority or their schemes or their influence to dispossess people of their right and their freedoms and then grab them up under false pretense and pretext without them having violated any particular SOE, because the SOE wasn't or didn't have any violative parts of it, to say what would be the reason why it will be constituted as being violating that SOE and therefore be subject to the consequences of that SOE. It did not exist, and as of today date that we are talking, that I'm aware of, they haven't gone back yet and remedied that. But for all intents and purposes, they have these people grabbed up and in jail wrongfully. So therefore, the least thing could do, like go back, redo the SOE, correct what needs to be correct so that it can be perfected, turn these gentlemen loose, and if they violate that SOE, then go and pick them up as violators or as lawbreakers. But you cannot be acting as a lawmaker and a lawman executing and trying to keep the society in a lawful order while you are committing crimes against the very population that you're sworn to protect. You cannot be a scofflaw and demand that the population act lawful while you are acting unlawful and illegal. So wheel and come back again, Mr. Minister of Police. Go point out to your Governor General or Assistant or Deputy Governor General that she erred in signing on to your bogus SOE. Other than maybe it was intended to be like that from the get-go anyhow, because they know that the Governor General's office doesn't have any legal, independent, constitutionalist-minded person that will point out to the Governor General when something is wrong. But for a matter of fact, they will say, yes, the Governor General have access to legal support. The Attorney General, well, the Attorney General is a part of the cabinet. And if cabinet and the ministers them in cabinet are the ones that are taking those documents to the to the Governor General or Deputy Governor General for signature and ascension, then it is only to be presumed that they should be culpable for not doing the documents correctly. But you can't excuse the Governor General for not knowing or trying to figure out what they should know before they are sent to any of these unconstitutional and illegal acts. They are the vanguard. The Governor General and the Deputy Governor General, in the absence of the Governor General, should be within their elements and their rights and their power to assent or not to assent. But they need to have the knowledge about what is it they're assenting to. And they need to know when these things are violating the Constitution and are actually illegal. Of course, the matters would not have been in court yet, so a court is the only place that the legality would be established. But we have case laws and precedent laws that tells you when something is going to be wrong or right, that you could guide yourself by, and that which the Attorney General and the Attorney General's office and the other legal minds in cabinet, for example, the lawyers, them, and all the other ones, them, when they go and sit down in the cabinet to discuss matters, that's what they're supposed to be discussing: how to perfect the laws, how to do the laws in such a way that it doesn't violate the Constitution, how to do the laws in such a way that it benefits and enhance the management of the country and help the people. Cabinet is not a place that then just go and socialize and sit down and banter and talk, arbitrary conversation. It's about discussing the affairs of the people. And there's enough of them as lawyers in there, as I keep repeating, should have enough competence and guidance in cabinet to be able to do the right thing and do legal things rather than illegal things. So even cabinet itself has to take some of this mud on its face. But I want to ask first and foremost, today is too late. Tomorrow is going to be much later, and then much more days that goes by that they don't release these people. They are basically scofflaws because they're running time on these people that they can't give them back, and they are doing it illegally and without due cause, and they're doing it with a bogus SOE. So I'm not going to ask them to do what's right. I'm going to demand that they do what's right. Because if they never know that they were doing wrong before, then bloody well know that they're doing wrong now, that I'm pointing it out to them. Because what I'm saying, they all know I'm correct in saying, and I'm right in what I'm assessing. They cannot be punitive and just take away these young men rights and freedoms arbitrarily and capriciously just because they want and they think that they can, by bamboozling and power playing the process. The basis on which they grab them up and send them to prison is inconsistent with the Constitution, and it's inconsistent with the SOE. Because the SOE not spell out nothing to say that they violated or broke them, which is why they're supposed to be collected under the SOE. So for all intents and purposes, I have a lot more that I wanted to say. I have citations that I need to read, but I'm belaboring these points, and I'm talking to too many different people on too many different points. I needed to go through that process, but I also needed to be fair to my other panelist members, and therefore I'll just turn it back over. I'm going to yield for right now, and then later on, hopefully before the show is over, I'll get a chance to read some of the things that I need to read to back up what I've just said. Mr. Wade or Greg, which one of you want to?
Go ahead, Mr. Wade.
Leonard, you had touch a very critical issue, that is the matter at hand in this country at the moment, especially in the city where this is taking place. No, you pointed out a number of wrongs, and you pointed out a number of things that you think that they should go back and do. We do. All this is in conjunction to educate the public, let the people know what the system is doing wrong to them. It's a service that we are providing, and it's directly affect the south side of Belize City, where majority are blacks. So my point is that, what are these people's intention? Are they bettering the lives of people? Are they doing right by people? Is that the best thing that they could have come up with? In my view, no. It's not the best thing that they could have come up with to settle the so-called gang warfare that they are so bent head over heel to address. And it's not the first time, and it's not going to be the last time. It rightfully says, Leonard, what's going on up in the north of the country, right? Why do they not do the same thing, or even worse, because here you're talking about people that are, most of them that are coming across from the border, according to the Prime Minister, as they're not good at criminals, right? He wanted $1 million to take care of that in an easy way. You mentioned that. And that's something that Gregory and yourself, we had talked about, right? Now, this guy, the Prime Minister, came back in the country, and a question asked to him today. What do you think about the state of emergency? He says the government has to do it because they're about law and order, and they are about protecting the citizen, right? So when the UDP had did it, it wasn't right for them to do it, right? But when his government did it, it's okay. To the south side, it's okay. Now, to me, that's hogwash. That's politics. And he also mentioned that about cabinet. He said cabinet are sworn to secrecy. They shouldn't discuss what happened in cabinet. What is wrong with this guy? Whose business are they attending to in cabinet? Is it their personal business? It's the business of the people. So the people have a right to know. They need to stop that. Past and present government says the same darn thing. Whatever they do in cabinet should be not discussed, and they are sworn to secrecy.
Secrecy is for
now,
strangers.
where does that left me to believe what he's saying? And what do he think that some people think rationally when he says these things? Now, you have in other countries, presidents are being indicted, representatives, senators have been indicted for some of the same things that some of these ministers, politicians are doing and have done in this country. And how many of them walked to court or indicted? None. None. You see what's going on with Mr. Trump, right? He thought that what he had done is okay. No, it's not okay. And he was above the law. No, it's been proven now that he is not above the law. So I say this to say that it's a damn shame to see how some of these ministers do when they get that power, or when they take this power upon themselves and do to us, and they get away with it. These things got to stop. And who should stop that? It's the police exercise the law, and the judicial system, right, should take its course. Now, why do that not happen? Well, because they are all appointed by the system. So they got to carry out the duties of the system. When I say that, of the powers to be, namely the Prime Minister comes right down, right? You understand? That is what happened in this country. When they come into power, they bring in their own people to serve them. They elect and heads of department to serve them. I said it often, and it's been going on for decades. Judge Price did it. The late Honorable, may he rest in peace. The Musa did it. The Esquivel did it. The Dinbaro did it. Now this guy is doing it too. and no accountability. And he do not care what we say. He do not care what they say. I mean the public, right? Because he's the ultimate power, right? He has the power. Who should question him? And he says all his cabinet is behind him. Well, I tend to differ on that, but that's a venom he spewed it out there to the media, to the world, to us. Now, I would like to see that based on what you articulated there, Leonard, I would like to see that they go back and they redo that SOE, right? And do it right. Right? And all these so-called gang members, they should release them. And if they want, when they go and they redo that, and they come back with it the proper way, then they go back and pick them up. If that is their intention.
Mr. Wade, they can't pick them up if they not violate the SOE.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
And they could only pick up who violated.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying is that they go back and do it the proper way, right? And if they violate it, because that is their intention. But as Leonard had said and Gregory had said, what are the items that they violated? They do not know. So, I say this to say that they need to go back and redo that state of emergency and do it the proper way, right? Because you pointed out, Leonard and Gregory before, that it's not done the proper way. So, and I leave this like that, but I would like to see more of these politicians, heads of department, ministers, past and present, held accountable, man, for the wrong that they do to us. And sadly, when they demit office, they come and they live right in the midst of the very same people that they violated. Right? That's what gets me. Right? These here, when they left office, they're going to come and live back in the same subside and the amount of same people that they violated their rights. Say no more. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your contribution, Mr. Wade, and that's very eloquently presented and very effectively conveyed. Before I turn it over to Greg, I just want to say, Greg, I just endorse Mr. Wade and the rest of the people listening to the show. For tonight, we might go a little bit longer than we normally do, because this matter is pressing, urgent, and needs attention and response. So we'll just have to take a little bit extra time because, we need to flesh it out. Okay, before I go to Greg, then I just want to put something out there, and to the general public, and in particular to the people who have control of our governance power. Specifically as regards to the Prime Minister, the ministers, then, the heads of department, and senior people in our various government departments. Pay attention to what I'm about to say now. Whenever you get the chance to hear it, listen to it and pay attention. Hopefully more of you will be paying attention and listening and hearing and understanding these things. What I'm about to say is not news, by the way. There's a place that people who commit crimes against humanity people who commit human rights crimes, people who derogate people's rights, people who oppress and suppress other people, whether they are the government or not, but in particular to the government, because we are dealing on talking about the government in this instance. I'm not restricting my comments only to the government, but because the International Criminal Court has been visited by many past leaders who thought that at the time when they were exercising the powers vested in them, nobody could touch them. And so they just went on and went on and went on. Some of them kill, some of them steal, some of them maim, some of them arbitrarily imprison people, some of them, they did all manner of wicked stuff. And some of them end up at the Hague. Why? Because the local jurisprudence and judiciary system could not touch them. I would like to bring to the attention of the present government and all future government, beware. Because while you may not be prosecuted by your own legal system in your own home, because presumably you think you're above the law, or maybe those people feel threatened and feel like they can't deal with you because they feel like you have to be allowed to operate above the law. For the future, be aware. You're subject to be hauled into the International Criminal Court and answer for your civil rights violations, for your human rights violations, for your constitutional violations, for your war crimes, for your poverty-stricken society, that you force people to live in poverty and to live in messed up situation just so you can rape and pillage the wealth of the society. Beware. Because while Mr. Briceño or any of the other members of cabinet, including the police commissioner, could think that they can be above the law because they don't arrest themselves or prosecute themselves, there are other ways to skin you. There are different ways to skin the cat. And if they want to pretend and act like cats, malevolent cats at that, then them both has to be skinned one way or the other. Because we cannot continue with our society being held hostage by these knuckleheads who come in and out of our governance and just rape and pillage and destroy the society and turn around and oppress, especially when they're oppressing minorities. Because this particular instance is one where the violations are totally egregious. There was no need for them to subject all the people in those particular areas under SOE because they had the power currently. They have the laws on the book currently to go after these people, process them, try them. The same money what they spend right now for the PNA, for work and do all kind of other little shim-sham thing. Now, for example, I explained to you the last time, when PUP they in, then support the PUP gangs and then let them run free. When the UDP are in, then do the same thing. And I'm telling you, as I said before, it's not because they can't do what's right on behalf of the general populace or the rest of the society. It's because these elements are beholden to them and work for them in different ways. But I'll deal with that afterward. Greg, I'm sorry, Greg. I took a little bit more time than I wanted to. I just wanted to bring up that issue about the International Criminal Court because I'm not doubtful that was some of we present and maybe future leaders will end up to go. Because people like myself and others are not scared of initiating that process or pushing that process forward, because we know they get accountability under the present system, so we have to use the other systems then to get accountability, and that's what's coming in the near future. They better let the going guys quickly too. As I said, it's a demand, it's not a request. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry about that.
Thank you, gentlemen. I listened to you and I listened to Mr. Wade. And very educational. But the meat is still not on the bone yet. There's a lot of meat to take off. I've mentioned on this platform on more than one occasion that government of Belize is not playing its role when it comes to protecting its territory, when it comes to getting with private sectors and creating jobs, and when it comes to the fundamental rights of the citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So let me start by saying this. We have 2 states of emergency going on in Belize. We have a state of emergency with our people going to bed hungry that government cannot solve.
Mm-hmm.
We have a state of emergency with our government not helping our local farmers to produce enough. We have a state of emergency with our governor, with our prime minister, discriminating against the black population. We have a state of government, we have a state of emergency with our police department, who is supposed to carry out laws and able to do it through discrimination.
And acting rogue.
Because I'm saying this just to look at what is happening to black people on a whole. This is a government who is supposed to hold people accountable by the laws of this country. They have came down hard. And these eligible gangbangers who they say they know, and at any means necessary, they will make sure that they teach them and lesson. But I have not heard this government. They are silent, including the Minister of Agriculture and the Ashcroft regime, when a tribunal has passed down its verdict for the stevedores to get paid for the sugar they move down south. And this is the same government police department and Minister of Agriculture who is supposed to enforce that law. And it is just sweep under the rug.
Take heed, Belize.
Now, let me get to the second state of emergency. We are in a state of emergency where we are lacking in our judicial system with less than 3% conviction rate. We are in a state of emergency with a government who has to take donated money from the people's money from Social Security Department to fix the courtroom that these same young men are supposed to be tried in, including any other individual who violate the law. We are in a state of emergency when we have a government discriminating against the local of this country, as in the past acting Chief Justice, Mr. Rana, the Crown Councils, who are getting less money than people who the government brings in to be magistrate and who's working in legal department. We are in a state of emergency, so called by the Minister of State and the Police Department, which is a no-brainer. You have laws. You have a drug act. You have a gun law that gives the policeman without a warrant, if they believe anybody is selling drugs or anybody has a firearm, can pick them up without a warrant, arrest them, and they are locked up and they should go to trial. We have right now a law that says if you are in a gang, you can be charged with being a gang member, and you will still come with a state of emergency to pick these young men up without breaking the law. Let me show you how ludicrous it is. I want to speak about Mr. Underwood specifically. He was charged with being a member of a gang. He was locked up and he's seeking bail from the Supreme Court. Now, the Commissioner of Police specified that if bail is granted to him, that he would pick him up under the state of emergency. You know what he just said? He's saying that in violation of the Constitution, with no respect to innocent until proven guilty, with no respect to the judiciary. This man is being charged with being a member of a gang. He's not found guilty, so it's not a proven fact that he's a member of a gang. But yet you want to pick him up as though he is one. You see how the state of emergency is inconsistent with the Constitution? Because it is unconstitutional. When you come and you announce a state of emergency, a state of emergency comes under the Emergency Powers Act. And also, it has to do with the Emergency Regulation Act. Anybody at home and abroad should look up and the past statutory instrument that was passed under the COVID-19 measures, and you will see what the Emergency Regulation Act specifies. It says, if you don't wear a mask, you can be charged. If you're out beyond curfew hours, you can be charged. It has stipulations that once you violate it, you can be picked up and charged. But here with this state of emergency, which is inconsistent to the Constitution, there's no regulations at all. They are picking up these young men as though they committed a crime, and they are guilty. And they are not, because the state of emergency is bogus. And let me say this. We are also in a state of emergency with our police force. Now imagine, these young men are locked up because they are killing each other. But what happens when the police become a gang? Nobody's talking about that, because we are in a state of emergency. Because the way the police is killing these young men. Look at this young man in Orange Rock. What crime did he commit? more
None.
than it is alleged that he was coming from a drug house, which is unproven. The young man did not have to stop to for the police because he was not arrested and was escaping. The police, by their own mouth, said they saw him coming from a drug house. What was the first thing should come to mind then? You investigate first and you obtain reasonable, articulable suspicion before you do any drastic action as they did. And you know what? What they did was horrible because they had intent. When you will shoot at someone first and that didn't work, and you will take your vehicle and hit them from behind and run over one of them, what is more detrimental than that to a gangbanger shooting at each other? So when we talking about constitutional violation, we are having it from all sides. As I said before, nobody is policing the police. We are living with a government that is using executive power against its own citizens, and they are breaking the law. Mr. Wade, you said something. When they asked the Prime Minister today about the SOE, he said, well, they have to do what they have to do. You also mentioned when they asked the Prime Minister many other questions, you heard his answer. You heard his answer. But I'm drawing this to you to let you see the difference. How they go and come when they want and need something. You recall the Foreign Minister, what he said in the House? From now on, when we want to bring in any more terrorists, we are going to make sure we come to the people first and ask them. So he's simply saying we're not going to do it under any more secret agreement.
Oh man.
So you have to listen to these people because it is not ringing a bell the way the country is going. And I can say this tonight to the people at home and abroad. Keep your eyes open and watch keenly what is happening with this government because the government has a mandate. When you have a government that will take constitution reform and amend it into law, and he's coming at you with a mandate by law, asking your opinion to help him change the constitution, something is drastically wrong. And I will leave it at that, Mr. Chairman.
Just a second. I got something here that I wanted to read. If you allow me an opportunity. Let me see where I'm at.
And you know what Section 19 of the Constitution says? Whenever under a state of emergency, anyone is picked up and have not been charged, the government have 7 days to bring him before a judge and tell him what he's charged for so that he can get the adequate legal representation to help himself.
I'm going to read here Section 6, subsection 1, and it says, all persons are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to the equal protection of the law. If any person is charged with a criminal offense, then, unless the charge is withdrawn, the case shall be afforded a fair hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial court established by law. Every person who is charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed to be innocent until he is proved or has pleaded guilty. Now, and grab up the young man, all out of spitefulness and malice. Okay? They never gone and grab the one where they commit the crime and the one that when they got on a file as having committed crime before, some of whom got off on some of the charges then when they put on them under the normal situation. I think they're the one when they should have gone and grab. The ones then when they know they commit the crimes. But then grab up who they want. And they left the SOE out there pending to have an effect on anybody else that they think in their own wise way they need to deal with or have an interaction with, to the point where everybody else is exposed. If you drive through a checkpoint and you hurry to try to get to the hospital or to get your work because you're late, you got to sit down in your vehicle there and wait till then go through for them process, and you end up to get the work late and maybe end up to lose your job. Or if you're a day worker, end up to lose that day work. They don't care. Then they derogate everybody else's right. Just because they don't want to do their job, they go after the real criminals when already stipulated that they could identify by means of the closed circuit TV systems them that they have, with the cameras them. And the evidence when I have otherwise, like Mr. Chester like boast and say, he know where every bullet fired, he know who fired it and things like that. If people are to be treated equally under the law, then they should be treated equally under the law. You shouldn't have the law being applied to some people and then some other people the law is not being applied to, because that's not equal treatment under the law. I'll read number 9, section 9 of the Constitution, subsection 1. And I won't read subsection 2 because I want to go read some other things. And then besides subsection 2, there's a whole lot of A, B, C, and other clarifications. But none of those clarifications justify violating what the particular section states. So I'll read section 9, subsection 1. Except with his own consent, a person shall not be subjected to the search of his person or his property or the entry by others in his premises. But when the police then ready, they go with guns blazing, then go in at people's house, sometimes they kick down people's door. When they left, the people in the door can't be repaired because the people ain't got no money to repair the door. So they have to improvise. They don't send one contractor out to go fix the door when they kick down. Or anybody's house when they haul and pull and ransack. So you have the police officers who are supposed to be peace officers going out there and issuing illegal orders, and they're acting as scofflaws. They're violating people's rights. And they're violating them because I want to tell you, the police department operating manual, the police, I forget the name of it, but anyhow, like the rules that they operate under, okay? Many of these guys break those rules, and sometimes they're interdicted, and many times they're not, because the commissioner and other police officers, senior officers, claim that it's the wrongs that they commit is being done while they're trying to exercise the law, or while they are trying to perfect the law, or while they're trying to apprehend the lawbreakers. But they don't apprehend themselves when they broke the law. And as in the case of the young man laddie, that judge, Anthony Moore, I think that was Antoinette Moore, I'm sorry, gave a very sound and solid ruling. And I remember Mr. Dickey said, you know what? We police officers then, and for we legal people then, they need to pay attention to what that judge has said. And I would second that, because it was a well-reasoned and sound conclusion. But I want to go and read section 18 and 19. Those are small part each of them, okay? I don't want to read the whole thing, because it's getting late, and you know, with the board with listeners, them know, you know, especially when they read constitutional matters and so on. Sometimes we put them to sleep, you know. But we do need to read these things, because what I've been talking about tonight relates to the Constitution, and therefore I need to read some of these things from the Constitution. Okay? I don't want people to think that I just me to get up here and say what I want to say, and I grandstand and say things when I go so. Section 18(1), provisions for. Let me enlarge this so I could withdraw. Provision for periods of public emergency. That is that under 18(1) and 18(1)A, B, and whatever else not, it stipulates the provisions that needs to be adhered to under a state of emergency. Now remember, there are legitimate state of emergency that could be declared and should be declared when needed. But then there are also bogus stipulation of state of emergencies when they want to play fast and loose with the laws. And then there are also real state of emergencies, as my cousin intimated to earlier, that they're not paying any attention to and or they're not addressing and putting law behind, or economic support behind, or personnel, or whatever they have to do to remedy those states of emergencies. It's like they don't want to hear that. They just want to be punitive to these young men, these young people, right? And so therefore they want to pick them up and deprive them of 30 days of their life, because they can't figure out who are the one where they commit the crime. And the law says that the ones then when it's supposed to arrest are the one who commit the crime. You just cannot pick up somebody and accuse them of a crime. So they're not to pick up and accuse them of no crime, they accuse them of belonging to a gang. Now, belonging to a gang is not a crime. Okay? Anybody hear me say that right now? I want to say I had to talk craziness, because everybody in the country know that if you belong to a gang, the legislator don't make laws saying that once they can prove that you're a member of a gang, or once they think you're a member of a gang, or once they want, they could arrest you for just being a member of a gang. Those laws are anti-constitutional. The fact that the House passed it, like many other laws, don't mean that it's constitutional, it's right, or that they should have done it. They just do it because they wanted to do it. They put it on the book, and nobody challenged it, and they get the benefit of having it on the book and use it when they want. But if those laws were to be taken to court, based on precedents, based on case laws, based on stare decisis, they would be struck down and ruled as unconstitutional. I'm not saying that gratuitously, or just saying it because I have a pair of lip on my face and I just want to talk and pretend like at a grandstand. Right? The laws are the laws, and as far as the case laws are concerned, those are the basis on which, when the lawyers then go to court, whoever presents the most case law and the better case law that's relative or relevant to the particular case, that's the person that wins. And not because they don't know the law, or the lawyers they don't know what each other is supposed to know, or that one lawyer know more and know better than the other one. It's just a matter of your presentation and how you articulate your case. Well, of course, sometimes depending on the judge that sit on the case too, because some judges have a predisposition to their own perspective and their own philosophies. But that's not here and there. Let me read Section 18 of the Constitution says, in this part, period of public emergency means any period within which A, Belize is engaged in a war. Is Belize engaged in a war right now? Now, then one stipulate that when the word war is used, then go say, yes, we have a bang war going on. And then they want to conflate that and say, well, that's what the Constitution is speaking to. No, my people. Don't let these knuckleheads then bamboozle you. Under subsection A, paragraph A, when it says Belize is engaged in any war, it means like a war with Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, or any other adjacent, or not even just adjacent, but any other country for a matter of fact. B, there is enforced a proclamation by the Governor General declaring that a state of public emergency exists. So again, any emergency that is declared has to be done by the Governor General. And once the Governor General, or as in this case now, instead of Deputy Governor General signed this one, had the Deputy Governor General know what she was signing or what was put before her, she may not have signed it. She may have asked them to go back and please finish, do what needs to be done to perfect the SOE. But the Deputy Governor General delegated, apparently, as far as I would want to give her the benefit of the doubt, delegated, she signed off on the incomplete SOE and delegated the responsibility for completing the SOE and adding on whatever the minister or the different people would have wanted to add on. In other words, he gave them one blank check. Anybody with any common sense would know that you don't issue a blank check to fraudsters because they commit fraud, right? You give them a legal check or a proper check where you yourself make out all together and they want to change the numbers than what you put there. So anybody with basic common sense knows that you don't give nobody one blank check, especially if they come to you, if they hoodwink you, and forget to help them commit a crime, which is basically what this whole SOE process was all about from the get-go. Breaking the Constitution, but getting the permission by the Governor Gen to break it. Subsection Section 18.1 and paragraph C. I'll read a little part there. There is enforced a resolution of the National Assembly declaring that democratic institutions in Belize are thereby are threatened by subversion. So you have three different sections there. Under 18.1, you have A, B, and C. Did it mention anything about picking up any gang members because they belong to a gang? No. It goes on further and it clarifies some additional or gives some additional details of which these people would want to probably use or couch the misguided and malicious intended effort as a backup. But then, as I said earlier, being a member of a gang is not constitutionally a crime. It is a crime under other laws. And the other laws are, for example, laws that the House of Representatives makes, which can be ruled as anti-constitutional or null and void by a court. Now, can anybody tell me, Belizeans I'm talking about, for example, right now, both at home and abroad, including our member or panelist member? Well, I shouldn't say that's because the panelist member, they know the answer to this question. But just, the average person out there, could anybody tell me which of these laws the gang members then break? And where are the laws that the gang members then break in order for them to have been arrested? Being a member of a gang is constitutionally protected, even though we, Congress, went on to stipulate and create laws to say it is a crime. If you read the preamble, if you read under these same sections that we're reading right now, I'm getting a feedback, Greg. You did something just now, Greg. I'm getting a feedback. Greg.
Yes.
Something happened just now. I started getting feedback as soon as they went forward and back. I don't know where you touch.
My mic was on pause.
Okay, well, anyhow. Let me continue because time is running and we are already late. And this is part of the extra time where I'm telling you that we may need from the public be patient with us about, no, because it's a big topic and we need to flesh it out. But under the same area here of the section 3 to 19 inclusive 20 that covers the basic preamble, it tells us that you have a freedom of association, that the government has no rights or power or authority vested in it to derogate from you. The freedom of association. You can associate yourself with anybody. You can speak to anybody. You can say whatever you need to say to anybody. Of course, freedom of speech does not take away accountability for the outcome or the consequence of what your speech brings about, right? I'm getting that feedback again. But anyhow, Greg, go ahead, no? Take over.
Yes.
Greg, take over.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Under that same section you're reading, there's also a constitutional right that says freedom of expression, meaning those tattoos that those guys have on, whatever they want to tattoo, like the police force, that is called freedom of expression. So let's not forget that. And I will use that for mine as my closing tonight. My air pieces has died out, and so I'm just using the open phone.
Sorry.
Okay, so we have to remember these two things. There's no law that can stop you from freedom of expression. Whatever you want to tattoo on your body, whatever flag, shirt you want to wear, if it's anti, whatever they want to call it, that is your freedom of expression. And it goes inside freedom association. What is happening right here? They are violating these guys' constitutional right under Section 9 of the Constitution, because they're saying state of emergency and they want to act like it's not a state of emergency. per se, if you kind of read what Chester had said. He said the Constitution, even though you have some rights, he went on to read about any other law. But he don't know the Constitution, because if he knew the Constitution, he would have said right off the top, any proclamation by the Governor General in Section 18 will take away your rights under a state of emergency whenever there is a war or there is pestilence like COVID-19. So he does not know what he's speaking about, you know?
And that taken away is only temporary.
Temporarily.
You don't even call it a taking away, because a taking away means that you don't own it.
Right.
They can only
But you see,
suppress it for a short
right,
period of time, based on the assumption of the Governor General signature.
right.
And it tells
But you see,
them that they can only do it for 30 days at a time, and it got to revert directly back to you. They're not something when they grant back to you.
let me give you an example. You see, when we had COVID-19, and I know, Mr. Wade, you know about this. When you had the Minister of Health as Mr. Shibat, he wanted to force vaccination on people, which is unconstitutional. Okay? Now, why I'm saying this, when you have a pandemic, which is pestilence, right? It can last for a long time. So when we say under Section 18 and a proclamation because of that, you saw how long COVID-19 lasts. So that was how long some of your fundamental rights can be taken away from you. Only under those measures where the government of Belize is trying to save lives, you know, it's trying to protect the people from spreading the COVID-19. And this is important because we must remember, in any state of emergency, it has what you call emergency regulation, which falls under that act right there. So you must have some regulation that are measures put in place that is there during the state of emergency.
Greg,
An example, yes, go ahead.
Subsection 2 says the Governor General may, by proclamation, which shall be published in the Gazette, declare that a state of public emergency exists for the purposes of this part. And Section 3 says, subsection 3, a proclamation made by the Governor General under subsection 2 of this section shall not be effective unless it contains a declaration that the Governor General is satisfied with a state of war between Belize and another state is imminent, or that a public emergency has arisen as a result of the occurrence of an earthquake, hurricane, flood, fire, outbreak of pestilence, outbreak of infectious disease, or other similar calamity. In other words, it's not speaking about a state of emergency to willy-nilly deprive people of their rights. It's talking about major catastrophic issues. But this
It also covered civil war. And if the state, the government is being attacked by itself, like let's say the coup that they have right now in Niger, you know, anybody trying to overthrow the government, that's also a state of emergency. But anything that falls within that section will bring a proclamation, and it must have the regulation that comes with it to say what the citizen can do or cannot do during that period, that time of the state of emergency. But here we have none, and that is what you call unconstitutional. You cannot have a state of emergency under the Emergency Powers Act and under the Emergency Regulation Act, and there's no laws, no regulation to protect it.
And
then it is not a state of emergency.
And it is not proper for the Governor General and or in this case the Deputy Governor General to yield her powers to the state, for the state to go and decide on their own after the fact what crimes they want to include under her ascension. Because those crimes are spelled out before it gets to her for her ascension. Which is why I was stating earlier that the SOE is bogus, incomplete, and did not have the regulations attached to it. And for that reason, I'm demanding that these guys do the right thing, go back and correct their mistake, and then arrest whoever violates the SOE then. But as of right now, they're acting under the color of law illegally. Despite the effort that they have already expended, they're trying to bamboozle people that don't know better.
Let me say this, then I will go to Mr. Wade.
Go ahead, sir.
The problem and issue that we have here, and I want to say this for the people at home and abroad, when you have a law that is used to charge these young men for being a member of a gang, you can pick them up, you charge them, you lock them up, and then they have to go and get bail before their trial. You cannot have an illegal and constitutional state of emergency where you are picking them up and you are not telling them on what charge you are picking them up. You can't have a state emergency and just hold them for being a member of a gang without charging them, because you already have a law in place for that, which is for being a member of a gang. Then you go to trial. So what you are doing when you have a state of emergency and you're picking them up is as though they already charged, they already convicted, and now they are being sentenced for 30 days. That's in violation of their constitutional right. And it is null and void, inconsistent with the Constitution. Because the only time that the state can take possession of you is when you commit a criminal act, you went to court, and you are sentenced by a judge because you are found guilty. Go ahead, Mr. Wade.
Oh, guys, for my closing, I want to, thank you guys for, for another educational platform, to the public. And I just hope that, they see the good in what we are doing, in terms of, what is being inflicted upon them. And you guys rightfully narrowed down the whole scenario. And, I hope that they, take something home with them. And we talk about the situation in Orange Walk, and we try to compare it, no comparison, and we says where we think that there's certain portion of society that has been targeted or are being targeted by this government because of their actions. I like to say this, that I would like to see better done. I would like to see that, these politicians are held accountable. And I would like to see that they stop covering up for each other, knowing well that the wrongs that they are doing, knowing the corruption that is taking place within them, watching them doing wrong and saying wrong and bamboozling people, right? And they say nothing. I mean, to me, that is uncalled for. And they need to do better, right? And as for the prime minister, he needs to do a lot better if he want to get reelected, right? Again, he says another blatant lie that crime is done. So if crime is done, why the state of emergency, right? Why are you going to say these things, right? What is wrong with you, huh? I mean, it's what's really going on in this country. It's a sad situation right now with what this present government is doing to this nation, right? And all in the name of power and greed, right? And totally disregarding the real issue at hand. Greg, you mentioned, the real state of emergency, what they are: poverty, right? People going to bed hungry, right? The state of our economy. You call on the agriculture minister, right? That's our state of emergency, not a bogus one that they claim it to be. The real state of emergency is take care of the people, do right by people that you are being elected to do. Serve the people, not people. You want people to serve you. That's hogwash. People are getting tired. People are fed up. Like I say, the worst is yet to come. We've seen little things that I've never seen in this country before. We've seen people are beginning to rise up a little bit. We need to rise up, right? Rise up and speak out. Call these people out for who they are. Make demand, right? And stop letting them get away, because they are getting away with a lot. All the money that they go to the house and beg for, what do they have to show, right? What do the people have to take home with what they have gotten, right? Nothing but injustice, right? That is taking place in this country. Justice in this country is just for a few, right? And not across the board, right? Domestic issues, domestic violence every day, right? Come on, those are state of emergency, Mr. PUP government. That's my closing. And again, I want to thank you guys, right?
Mr. Wade,
For being a part.
Mr. Wade, and let me say this. If you recall, the Minister of Agriculture said that they will start to ship vegetable out. Guess what happened? They just stopped the contraband, right? They started to take away stuff and fine. When the contraband was selling, the regular local farmers had to keep their stuff at a reasonable price to get it sold. like around $3-4. You know what happened because the contraband stopped? The regular farmers up their thing. $7 for a head of lettuce, $7 a pound for sweet pepper, cabbage, just because the contraband stopped. So just see what I'm saying. And
That's the
remember,
state of emergency there.
there's not shortage yet because they haven't started to ship out yet. So just imagine the price when they start
Fuel
to
went up
ship.
again. That's the state of
Uh-huh.
emergency.
But guys, it was a wonderful platform, and you
I'm going to
know,
do my closing,
it's
Greg.
that time.
Greg,
So
it's,
yes,
we're going beyond the time substantively this time, but it was needed. I'm just going to close with a small comment, okay? And that is to
sure,
say,
go ahead.
the government needs to do what is right, regardless of what we are saying, or regardless of what they have done before. They need to correct the wrongs that they did and stop playing loose and fast with the laws and with governance powers. So, as far as I'm concerned, as I said before, they need to go back, turn loose these gentlemen, and only arrest whoever they know they have information on crimes and prosecute for the crimes, because that's the way the laws are set up in our books. Stop use this big stick to try beat up on any young people and take on a right just because you as the government have the powers and misuse that power and lie about how they use the power just to be mischievous and overreach and power play. There's no reason for the government to have to be behaving in that kind of way. God bless Belize and God bless Belizeans at home and abroad. Good night and thanks for such a nice show.
Good night to you guys. Good night to the public.
Good afternoon.